in their millions to watch. But okay,
I don't know about that, Chair. That's slightly optimistic.
Yes, I think you're right. Okay, as we've now started the formal meeting, I'm Councillor Philip Davis. I'll be chairing the hearing of Subcommittee A of the Licensing and Public Protection Committee of Birmingham City Council. Before we start, could I ask you to mute the microphone for the moment? Is that quality? If you can also turn off your cameras other than the committee members, as again, this helps us with the bandwidth. And usually committee members alone have their cameras switched on throughout the hearing, but when you speak, I mean, by all means, turn on your camera if you have to do that. Okay, mobile phones on silent, usual issues apply about avoiding distractions. And it's important, obviously, that those attending the meeting make a representation to hear me and members of the subcommittee and officers. Any distractions could result in the meeting being suspended temporarily or to another meeting, to another date and time under the regulations for these types of meetings. This is a public meeting and is therefore being live streamed on City Council's website in order that the general public can view it. The formal agenda is as follows. I advise the meeting to note this meeting will be broadcast for live or subsequent broadcast via the Council's meeting YouTube site, and that members of the press and public may record and take photographs except where there are confidential or exempt items. Declarations of interest. Members are reminded they must declare all relevant pecuniary and non-pecuniary interests arising from any business to be discussed at the meeting. If a disclosable pecuniary interest is declared, a member must not speak or take part in that agenda item. Any declarations will be recorded in the minutes of the meeting. 3, apologies and notification of nominee members. Councillor Locker sent her apologies and Councillor Wagg has substituted today as the nominee member. We also confirm and sign off the minutes of the meeting held on the 6th of June at noon. And so with those formal items out of the way, can I welcome you to this hearing for an application in respect of Schooners Bar, 31 York Road, Kings Heath, Birmingham, B14 7SA. As I said, I'm Councillor Philip Davis, chairing the meeting today. With me are the 2 other members of the subcommittee, Councillors Penny Wagg and Councillor Simon Morrell. Also present in the meeting are the following officers: the licensing officer, Mr. Shine Yasser, the committee manager, Ms. Katie Townsend, and the committee lawyer, Ms. Joanna Swampilai. And so I'll just ask the parties now to identify themselves formally. So, Mr. McCarthy, you're the licence applicant today. Would you like to turn your camera on? Okay.
That's correct.
That's good, thank you very much. And Mr. Cloughlin, your colleague in the business, is there to support you, but I understand you'll be leading on this today. Okay. We don't have anyone here making representations in person. Now, we have received representations in writing, and we have, of course, read the documentation. I'll just check again that we have no personal attendees making representations. Is there anyone here tuned in who wants to make representation? No, that's as we expected. They're not attending in person. Okay, next item is procedural rules. Again, I'll assume those attending have read the licensing procedural rules set out in the notice of the hearing. I may, at my discretion, amend those rules given this hearing is taking place online, but no amendments will impact on the parties of their hearing. We use the chat function as a backup. I think you'll be familiar with the chat function, and it just allows you to communicate, obviously, with the committee officers those via that. We also now type in all our names under the chat function just to assist the record. So if you could just in your as an attendee, just doing that now, if I can get the function up. And so there we are. If we all do that, well, that will help assist, as I say, with a record of the meeting. And we use it as a backup. But I mean, you can just communicate with me verbally in the normal way if you need to get my attention or the committee manager's attention. Okay. Don't think we've got anybody dialed in on audio telephone. And as we indicated, if you could keep your camera off with the exception of subcommittee members, this will assist the bandwidth. Does anybody have any this is really addressed to you yourself, Mr. McCarthy. It's really about procedure. Do you have any questions or preliminary points about that you want to make at this stage?
Not unless you want kind of background on ourselves or anything of that, if it's required.
No, it's really about the way the meetings would be held or any legal points. So I think it's probably not appropriate at this stage. You get your chance to talk about the application in a minute, but it's in our to ask that question. So
no, that's fine. No, I mean, we are just representing ourselves. It was
okay.
We didn't see that it was kind of necessary to employ a lawyer, and neither did we have any funds left to do that.
Okay, well, we'll put that to one side. But anyway, the process is that we now go on to we'll hear from the licensing officer first around about the application with the yes. Then you get the opportunity as the applicant to present your case, and you've got 20 minutes for that. If you wish to use that, you don't have to, but you've got that. And then there would have been a similar amount for those making representations directly, but we don't have that today. And again, if everybody can speak clearly, I think communication's reasonably good from what I can see on my system today, but we just have to make that note. And please mute microphones if it's anybody else's turn to speak. The next bit is superfluous because we don't have anybody who will be asking, who will be cross-examining today. We don't allow that normally anyway. But if at any time you're having problems communicating, use the chat function to try and let us know. Again, if you're not hearing what we're saying, let us know, because it's obviously important we're all able to receive all the information relevant to the hearing. It may be necessary for the subcommittee to take legal advice occasionally. At my discretion, I may ask all within the Microsoft Teams meeting to leave, and we will then adjourn with the committee lawyer to discuss whatever point and then return to the meeting afterwards. While that's happening, the live stream is turned off, of course, but we begin it as immediately that we come back into the public session. Okay, at the conclusion of the hearing, you also have a chance, Mr. McCarthy, to sum up for 5 minutes if you wish to use that amount of time. And no decision will be taken until all the evidence has been heard, of course. And at the decision-making stage, we withdraw with the relevant officers to determine the decision by going into a separate Microsoft Teams meeting. If we need to clarify any point, then you'll be telephoned by the meeting manager. And we'll make a decision, and then you'll be notified of the decision of the subcommittee within 5 working days. Okay, that's all the process points. So what I'd like to do now is ask the licensing officer, Mr. Yasser, to present his report. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. JJN Craft Bar Limited applied on the 17th of May 2022 for the grant of a premises license for Schooner's Bar, 31 York Road, Kings Heath, Birmingham, B14 7SA. The purpose of the report before you today is to consider a representation that has been made in respect of an application for a premises license which seeks to permit the sale of alcohol for consumption both on and off the premises to operate from 1 p.m. until 11 p.m. Wednesday, 1 p.m. until 1 a.m. Thursday to Saturday, and 1 p.m. until 10:30 p.m. on Sunday. The provision of regulated entertainment consisting of live music to operate indoors only from 7 p.m. until 11 p.m. Friday and Saturday, and 3 p.m. until 10:30 p.m. Sunday. Recorded music to operate indoors only from 1 p.m. until 11 p.m. Wednesday to Saturday, and 1 p.m. until 10:30 p.m. on Sunday. to permit the provision of late night refreshment to operate indoors from 11 p.m. until 1 a.m. Thursday to Saturday. The premises wish to remain open to the public from 1 p.m. until 11 p.m. Wednesday, 1 p.m. until 1 a.m. Thursday to Saturday, and 1 p.m. until 10:30 p.m. Sunday. A representation has been received from other persons, and that's attached to Appendix 1 of your report. The application is attached to Appendix 2 of your report. Conditions have been agreed with West Midlands Police and the applicant, and these are attached to Appendix 3. There's also some site location plans that are attached to Appendix 4. Now, when carrying out its licensing function, a licensing authority must have regard to Birmingham City Council's Statement of Licensing Policy and the guidance issued by the Secretary of State under Section 182 of the Licensing Act 2003. The licensing authority is also required to take such steps as it considers appropriate for the promotion of the licensing objectives. The options which are available to you today are to grant the license in accordance with the application, to reject the application, to grant the license subject to conditions modified to such an extent as you consider appropriate, to exclude from the license any of the licensable activities to which the application relates, or refuse to specify a person in the license as the premises supervisor. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much for that. So now, Mr. McCarthy, we're on to your opportunity to address the committee. So what would you like to say to us?
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, if I could just introduce myself and James McLaughlin. So we are just two local independent guys. We've lived in Birmingham all our life. Myself and James met in Kings Heath, where we used to work on the high street for Hughes's Fruiteers, which is now a Greggs. So we've kind of been in the area all our life and kind of worked in Birmingham all our lives for different companies. So in 2017, we started to create our own business because we wanted to kind of work for ourselves and just get something that we'd kind of talked about most of our life off the ground. So we created the Schooners Bar as a mobile bar for festivals, garden parties, just an idea that we had that we thought would take. We kind of operated this and went limited with the company in 2019 and started to get a bit of traction with the mobile bar, started to get a few parties and bookings. The summer then after that, we had a big festival booking of probably 12 or 13 festivals, which we had to kind of set out for the year, which then COVID hit and kind of completely wiped out our business. So the work that we put in over the years pretty much disappeared, and the whole business kind of fell apart. Because we were mobile, we couldn't get any kind of help from the council because it wasn't that type of business that would actually get any funds to continue, and nor was it possible to continue with the COVID situation. So during COVID, we decided to look for a property where we could set up the business and try and continue the Schooners brand as a more functional placed bar. So moving on from that, we took the lease on at York Road. York Road was a dilapidated building. They had kind of suffered through COVID, so the whole building itself needed complete refurbishment. The last 4 months we've spent completely redoing the building, new electrics, new plumbing, new drainage, new flooring, new ceilings, new walls. All this is personal finance from ourselves. It's just, we've just gone about it the independent route and either our own money or our mum's money to get this project off the ground, which is kind of where we are today now. We, our business itself is just local traders. So all our breweries are all local, all our liquors are local, all our crisps and snacks, everything that we sell is local only. I can provide a full list of these. They are generally within the local area, so Sturchley, Digbeth, Haycott's Green, there's a few in Stratford. They're nothing outside of the kind of Midlands region. And our USP really was to keep on the local independent theme of supporting basically people who supported us to get the project off the ground. And we find that in the Kings Heath area especially, people like that kind of thing where you are just only stuck in what people are making 2 or 3 roads down or half an hour away. And that's generally where we are right now. We've been on York Road for 3 months. I personally worked on York Road for nearly 10 years now, so I do know a lot of the businesses on that road and have worked for many of the businesses. We've had a lot of good feedback. We've had a lot of people come into the shop, having a look, really impressed with what we're doing, really excited about what's going on there. I almost think it's a shame that the 2 individuals that did object didn't come into the shop and just have a chat with us, because we are just providing local craft beer, and generally local craft beer isn't what you would consider a nuisance, or it doesn't attract a rowdy atmosphere. It's very much about just sampling products that have been made on your doorstep that you just might not know about. And a lot of the way we have set the shop up is to kind of educate people about what's being made locally on their doorstep. So that's generally the background from where we've come from and where we are now.
Chair, you're on mute.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
Oh, sorry about that. I was on mute. If that's what you want to say for the moment, we've got questions from members.
Yep.
Okay. Councillor Wagg, have you got any questions? Oh, you're on mute, Councillor Wagg.
Sorry, not at the moment. Thank you.
Councillor Moran.
Yeah, just a few. Thank you for the presentation. I like the fact that you're buying local. That's great. I typically have some generic questions I was going to ask. You've already kind of ticked a few of them off.
Yeah.
My bingo card sheet here. So what I'm going to talk about is your clientele. I want to know the capacity of the venue, because I've seen the blueprints.
Yeah.
It looks quite small. So what kind of capacity can the venue take? The second question, which you've already touched on, is the type of clientele that you're going to have. And the final question on the back of that is, because the opening hours are until 1 o'clock, what are you going to be doing as a venue to facilitate people getting home if they come out at 1 o'clock in the morning and if they've had to travel? I understand York Road has low traffic neighbourhoods there, so they have issues with taxis and the stuff. And I think one of the concerns would be, because you've got residential right adjacent further down the road, is the footfall going to spill over there? So what really are you doing to mitigate that? That's pretty much as generic a question I can ask. Thanks.
Okay. I'll answer your first question. So we have a maximum seated capacity of 40. So that's generally split between the downstairs room and the upstairs room. You're right, it is a very small unit. We've tried to maximise it as much as possible, but it's a tiny, it was an old sweet shop. So it is something that we spent probably 3 or 4 years trying to get a unit, and this was generally all we could get. So we're making the best of what we can with that space. So yeah, it won't be big capacity, seated 40, probably up to a max of 60. That's 20 standing. Anything after that, and it would just be overcrowded. The square meterage, you could probably get more, and the fire authority did say we could get more than 60. But we would generally work to that because it just becomes too uncomfortable for that style. Craft beers are generally, called craft beer bars, are generally people that will sample 3 or 4 beers and talk about the beers themselves, rather than it being a night out at a craft bar, if that makes sense. it generally attracts an older clientele who want to relax rather than going to a dance club or something that is quite lively. And we've tried to reflect that in the building, because all the seating areas are tried to made for comfort with extra room rather than trying to cram in loads of covers. So that would generally kind of cover. Is any more points on that capacity wise?
Yeah, so a question I had about obviously facilitating clientele that want to get home.
Yes.
Also, actually, one final point on the back of that, actually. You mentioned it's a shame that the objectors hadn't reached out to you. Have you done anything to reach out to the local residential area, and whether that's marketing, trying to invite them to the premises, or kind of explain what makes you unique?
Yeah, I mean,
to kind of mitigate the worry and objection.
Yeah, I mean, all the businesses we spoke to at the start, who have all been very kind of excited for it and feel that it needs something new on there. Plus, because the shop has been closed and dilapidated for nearly 3 years, they're excited that there's something new on there that's going to bring more people onto the commercial aspect of the road. In terms of the residential areas, we did do some door knocking before we kind of took on the project, just to see, was it going to be a problem? So the corner of York Road and Waterloo Road, we worked off just as a bulk for them residential parts, to see if the people that lived there didn't like how the road had gone to pedestrianised. And we probably canvassed about 15 to maybe 20 houses in that, just really that junction, really, because we thought that would be the biggest problem. And the majority of them, they use the street daily themselves. They like how it has gone. The people that I've met by doing that, I will see them, they'll eat or drink there, they get their hair cut there, they'll go and buy from the shops there, and they almost use the road to just putter down and back up again, and that's kind of how they've integrated it for themselves. At the people we spoke to on that kind of case, it was more good feedback that there wasn't going to be another shutter down permanently and that kind of thing. So yeah, no, we didn't come up against any kind of objections, which is why I was a bit more disappointed that they never came to us from before they put the objection in, because they probably could have had a look around the shop, seen how small it was, seen what we were doing and who we were, and probably avoided all this case. And some of their points on the objection, we're quite happy to take on in terms of the Thursday evening. I agree with them that they are right. It's probably an oversight for us that we shouldn't be open till 1 o'clock on a Thursday evening. It was probably more that we were looking for a later license for staff that work in the other shops to be able to come to us to relax after they finish their shift. So the likes of the Duke and Parley and Grace and James, who we've got a good working relationship over the last probably 5 or 6 years. So yeah, it probably was more of an oversight of not thinking about that on their case. But that's something we're kind of happy to bend on. In terms of the taxis and that kind of view that your concerns are, generally from experience of being on the road, everybody leaves towards the Hare and Hounds at the bottom end of the street, which is High Street. Now, Adam, who runs the Hare and Hounds, he takes the bollards out to allow the taxis to come in and collect people from that area at the bottom, so that it makes sure that nobody's on the high street, and it's a bit of a kind of, the taxi can pull it in and take people away. And that's generally how it works for all the other businesses on that road. So everybody leaves towards the high street and get picked up at the bottom of the road. It's all lit up. It's not a kind of dangerous walk or anything. And I've checked it a lot myself and took that route home myself from King's Heath to Hall Green, and it works. It's probably not ideal because of the way the road has changed, but it's been made to work to keep people safe at that time of night.
Okay, yeah, thanks. Yeah, I've not been to Derwent Elms for a very long time, so not since the low traffic neighbourhood. So thanks for clearing that up anyway, because I wasn't sure how it worked. No further questions, Chair.
Thank you very much for those questions. From me, Ms. McCarthy, there's a map in our doc pack, if you've got that in front of you. Again, I know the area reasonably well. I just wanted to pick up the residential proximity point. If you've got the map in front of you, the one with the dot, it's suggested that the nearest residential properties are about 6 doors away. Is that correct?
It's probably a bit further because they're double shop units after us, so the pet centre and the off licence. There's 2 takeaways, the hairdressers. So yeah, I mean it's probably about 30 metres to the first house, maybe slightly more.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I mean that would be the houses that we have already canvassed on that corner of York Road and after the pet centre. Right.
Okay. So you've already made some contact there, and are you saying that will you be inviting the objectors to meet you? You don't have to. It's not relevant to my decision, but I'm just asking you as a matter of interest.
I do, because this is my first experience of this, so we were kind of a bit like, we don't talk to them because it's a legal process now, and I didn't want to actually, like normally myself, I would just go and knock on the door and speak to them that way, but as soon as it becomes a legal process, I was a bit more, I don't know really what I'm doing here now, and I don't want to antagonise any kind of bad route for ourselves. Like we've invested a hell of a lot of money into this project, and any kind of risk of it going wrong now is really bad for us.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, moving on after this meeting, I'm quite happy to go down and see them. I'd be more trying to take your view on what you think is the best idea.
Well, we can't advise you, but I just wanted to put that there. But thank you for your answer. That's very helpful. Okay, I don't think I have any more questions. So that is that's your presentation then for now. You've got a chance to sum up in a minute, Mr. McCaffrey. But that's what you want to say to us. Okay, now we'd normally be dealing with representations from other parties now, but we don't have anybody else here. So we are actually to your closing submission, Mr. McCaffrey. Do you want to just sum up in 5 minutes why you want the license in the terms you've put before us?
Yeah, I think a lot of the things that have come through, the objections, they're comparing us to other businesses on the road. Now, a lot of the other businesses on the road are more daytime businesses, so they have deli counters and they do sandwiches and they do food, and they open up during the day, and they can make their wages through the daytime. Our business is just a craft bar, so we're not selling food. We are literally an evening business, so the 1 o'clock parameters for us are just to be able to make the most of an evening trade. We generally won't get any daytime trade throughout the week, so we're very reliant on Friday and Saturday to make profit in order to make this project work, and that's our biggest concern. You know, we're quite happy to take their view on the Thursday night that it is a school night, and we're quite happy to bring the hours back on that night. But the Friday and Saturday, it's the only opportunity we're going to get to actually pay the rent as such. So we would really like to push for 1 o'clock on the Saturday, Friday and the Saturday. I think if you have ever frequented craft bars, you'll know that they're not rowdy environments. The unit itself is very small. We generally only providing background music. There'll be no outside music. In terms of tables on the road, they will be brought in early. You know, most of their concerns aren't really concerns because we will be doing what they're kind of asking for anyway. So yeah, I mean, we would really like to try and hold the license to 1 o'clock on Friday and Saturday, just so we can actually pay for this project.
Okay, Mr. McCarthy, if that's all you'd like to say to us, that is the end of the evidence. And what we'll now do is go into private session with the relevant officers to make a decision, and you'll be notified of the decision of the subcommittee within 5 working days. Thank you very much for your contributions today.
Just quickly, Phil, can I just add one more point, which I've just got on my notes, which I forgot to kind of add. Just on York Road itself, Hare and Hounds has a 3 o'clock licence and Fletcher's has a 1 AM licence. So it's not like we're asking for something new on the road. And we are very small. So I'd like you to just bear that in mind for us, because we are very small.
Okay, thank you for that. That's helpful factual information. So, okay, so we will now end the public session and go into our private session as a committee with the legal officer to make our decision. We'll be notified of the decision of the subcommittee within days. A colleague that suggests we get straight into the other meeting to determine the decision. So, thank you very much for your contribution, your colleagues' support, and as I've let you know the decision within 5 working days.
Thank you.
Take care.